Hello, this is Chuck Solomon, and welcome to the Candidate Experience Podcast, where we focus on the job candidate journey from apply to onboard and the space in between. Let's get started. You care about the candidate experience, but have you ever wondered exactly how to bring your company to that next level and offer a world-class experience to your candidates? It's not easy. Fortunately, candidate.fyi can help. Their solution guides candidates through your hiring journey, enhancing transparency and communication at every touch point. You'll also gain valuable insights on what's working and what's not with your hiring process. Best of all, it integrates directly with your ATS. Head on over to candidate.fyi and see how to transform your company's candidate experience today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. I'm a big fan of the pod and love what you're doing. And I love talking about candidate experience. So this is just like a combination of all my favorite things I like to corner people at parties at.
Welcome to the Cornering People at Parties episode, where Mary Strebinger, Global Talent and People Leader, is my special guest. Mary shares some great insights on improving the candidate experience, especially for startups. We cover a number of important topics in this episode, including time to fill, applicant drop-off, gentle rejections, climatetech, net promoter score, and more. Enjoy. Hey, Mary, how are you today?
Oh, Chuck, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm very well. Happy, what day are we at here?
Gosh,
Are we
it's
on
all out of Monday. It's Tuesday.
Tuesday? We're recording this Tuesday, June the 13th. Yeah, summer has hit where I'm at. I'm not even sure where you're located. Where are you located?
Yeah, I'm just in the internet. I'm just part of the ether. No, I'm based in and it's usually sunny, but it's not. We've got some June gloom, but sunny Los Angeles. So I've been here for about 10 years. But if you can't tell from my friendly, upbeat voice, I'm originally from the Midwest, specifically Notre Dame, Indiana.
Nice. I think I noticed a little bit of Midwesterner niceness there. So
yeah.
I've never met a mean Midwesterner. So
super friendly. We're overly friendly. It's kind of scary to like coasters.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. I'm a big fan of the pod and love what you're doing. And I love talking about candidate experience. So this is just like a combination of all my favorite things I like to corner people at parties at.
Nice. Mary, before we get rolling here, can you just give listeners a little bit of a bio about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So hello, everyone. I'm Mary Strebinger. I'm the founder of Hero Hire Club. I consult across a VC portfolio and I partner as a fractional head of talent and people operations. So I work with founders and investors and really early stage foundational teams to build scalable people foundations and hire key leadership roles, including go-to-market, eng, product, design, ops, exec for seed through Series C startups. So some recent and client partners include seed women's focused telehealth, climatetech Series A, and a Series B direct to consumer. I also advise with some really fantastic rec tech, including our mutual friends over at candidate.fyi. Hi, candidate.fyi. So yeah, this is the year of fractional work. Previous to this, I was wearing a lot of people, talent, and culture leadership hats over at Who Gives a Crap, which is a certified B Corp direct to consumer toilet paper company. And previous to this, I've got in-house agency and embedded talent solution experience working for startups like Floyd, Ritual, Ladder, Therabody, Glossier, Dollar Shave Club, Aspiration, and more. So I just really love the early stages of business. I typically come in at like 10 to 50 headcount as a generalist to build out scalable foundations and run full cycle TA before exiting around like 300. So anyways, that's a little bit about me. Thanks, Chuck.
Nice. So you're really startup. So you small team, build a team into what you said about 300, and then you sort of exit or pass it along?
I usually tap out. It gets too big. The problems tend to be like sunshine and rainbows at that point. Right. And it's like, how do you take it from a startup to a scale up? right? And I really love those really early foundational puzzle pieces where you're like, oh my gosh, here's the puzzle, but I don't even know if it's got all the pieces, if like the picture matches the box, like,
Right.
yeah, what does it not even have edges, like stuff like that. So I really love those really early stages places. And for me, I can wrap my hands around it to about 250 people, 300 people, and then I leave. Yeah.
Gotcha. Awesome. I think you definitely have found a niche for yourself there.
Yeah, I have. It's a little hustly.
Right.
I'd like to find something a little slower and steadier sometimes, but gosh, I really love it. I come from an artist background, and it's just really like, how do you work with people that you really love, hop aboard a really cool project that has just usually never been done before, get other people to get excited about joining that and help build a cool story and also help build cool careers and a really good culture. So it's
Right.
fun. It's a really unique little experience, and I'm glad I found it.
Yeah. So what led you into working in the talent acquisition HR space?
Good question. Like many of us, I'm looking at you listeners, I fell into it. So like, no, there was no childhood dream to be HR. I really did want to be an astronaut, an artist, and a pancake, according to my diary growing up. Note that I said pancake, not pancake maker. And I feel like that just says a lot about me as a person. So yeah, I graduated art school, did the BFA, MFA, needed a job, went through a lot of opaque hiring processes. I felt like, this is not new to anyone, like, applied to hundreds of jobs, like couldn't understand what I was doing wrong, and found my way into HR and marketing, found I really love it, and then grew into recruitment, TA, and then found my love of startups. So it's niche after niche after niche. I'm really glad I fell into it because it ticks all the boxes that I want. Like, I'm a teacher, I'm an artist, I'm a creative thinker, I'm a systems thinker, and I absolutely love what I do. So yeah, it's good to have a daytime outlet to, again, save those poor party goers that I like cornering people at.
Yeah, you're not the first one to say I fell into it. I hear that often, and I think I've answered that the same way myself. But I do believe, and I ask this question of all my guests because I think the answers are really unique and interesting. But I do believe that you are the first artist, so you have that going for you.
Yes, all right. I've actually only I can count on one finger how many people I've met in TA that said they didn't fall into it. Some people did grow
Right.
up saying, I always wanted to be HR, but you're right, Chuck. It is really cool to hear everyone's stories on how they stumbled into it. And obviously they're not leaving because they found something really valuable and learned so much about themselves and just want to continue growing in that space. So it's a cool, special place. I hope more people start to grow, or more kids start to grow up wanting to be a talent acquisition or a recruiter or an HR person.
We need
It's
maybe maybe we need like a uniform, like the firefighter, the police mail carrier, all those have like uniforms and stuff. Maybe there needs to be a uniform so kids will start going out on Halloween with
oh
their
my gosh, I'm gonna design one of those and pitch it to one of those Halloween seasonal stores. That's great. I love that. Yes. I'd like to see some more HR specialists or chief people officers on my next Halloween route.
Yeah. When you go to the door, I'm usually the one at the door going, and what are you? And what are you? And
Yeah.
you're a recruiter.
I have a really hard time when it's anything with like a Star Wars or an Avengers or like a Disney princess. Those names just all blur together. So yeah, it would be really great if I was like,
Yeah,
chief people officer or chief happiness officer. What?
there you go. Love it. So, is there some challenges that you might have faced at, you've worked for a number of different places, and so you don't have to name the place, but I really want to dive into some aspect of the candidate experience that you're perhaps challenged with and sort of how you help to resolve that. You don't
Yeah.
have to name, and no naming names.
All right. I'll keep it really cagey and sound like a very hazy politician, listeners. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I consult with a lot of companies. So I would say one that I worked with recently was the time spent in the process was, I mean, their average time to fill was 4 months. And this, I'm not talking for like an executive search, which like could go anywhere from like 6, 12, sometimes 18 months. And like, that's kind of par for the course. I'm talking about like entry level to like career entry, like mid-level work. So like we'll hire like a junior product designer or a generalist project manager and run them through like a 9 to 11 step process over a series of like 3 to 4 months. And that
Ouch.
is exhausting, right? And that is also like the company that I was, working with, like DE&I was at the core of everything they wanted to do, as well as their customers. So it was really like reframing. It was already a mindset they were in, but they were using that with their customers and not with their candidates. So it was really reminding them that like, hey, you have a lot of drop off and you're not creating a diverse, inclusive, and equitable process because you're really rewarding at the end of the day someone who can afford to go through a really long, intensive, and not just like time intensive, but physical, emotional, financial intensive process. So you're seeing drop off on those people and those talent communities that you'd really like to see in your team. So we revisited our scoping, really like that define of role. So what are the key competencies? What are the behaviors? What are the skills that we really want? Getting alignment on the board and then creating new scorecards, creating an entirely new process from scratch, sometimes scrapping out the technical assessments and really narrowing it down so that for the candidate, instead of them feeling that pain point of a 9 to 11 step process, it was always felt like a 3-step process. So it just goes from phone screen to a hiring manager to a broader team assessment and then making a decision. So we went from an average time to hire of like 91 days to 26, which was fantastic. So obviously, and also like everyone in that process really enjoyed it. So we incorporated some like NPS scores from candidates and, anywhere, not just the candidates who saw through the process, but even through the application and how timely was the response and the expectations and the feedback that you received. So that was a big success. I'm currently working with a really lean early stage team who just implemented their first DTS. And one of the big things that we're working on is we're tossing out all those default processes, comms, workflows, scorecards to really customize it for the candidates as much as the hiring team to be really effective and impactful. This sounds like basic 101, but I cannot tell you how many companies I've worked for that are later stage that still have the very default like green
Right.
responses. And so I see it, my candidates see it, we feel it. And like once you go through a process and you start to see the templates over and over again in different companies, you realize they didn't take that time from the very start to customize things. It's really effective and impactful for the hiring team and for your internal team, and just as much as the candidates. And more importantly, like it's reflective of the full scope of opportunity that someone's coming in, the growth they'll have, the company, and the culture. So updating the adverts to reflect culture, compensation, if you can talk about that, depending on where you are. What are the core values? How are we using gender neutral language? How do we add the process? What is the interview process and the expected timeline to hear back from your application? And then the stages, is there going to be a technical assessment or a project? Will it be paid or not? Making a default thanks to the application note, and adding something in it just said like, hey, this is when we'll get back to you. Here's a fun little GIF. Here's something that you could learn about our company. So we're doing a lot of, this is for the climatetech. So we're adding a lot in the comms about, hey, here's a new or here's a new podcast that our CEO was just on, or hey, here's here's our culture deck. So you can learn a little bit more about our team and how we work and our ways of working and what we're like in a remote first business. We also have templates for candidates and applicants who are sitting for more than 2 weeks, as well as like no update so that hiring managers can use those and get gentle reminders, which are really big, right? Also having, I like to have really specific scheduling comms, confirmation comms, and adding prep work and feedback loops for each time and stage. So we are adding like a time follow-up note from each interview to gather real-time sentiments, gather feedback, and set expectations for when they can expect a decision either way. And lastly, something that I'm really proud of is, we all know this, Chuck, like for every job that you have out there, you're going to get hundreds, if not thousands of applicants these days.
Yep.
And one person, if one, sometimes it's zero, gets the job. So that's a lot of people that are applying and putting a lot of hopes, wishes, and dreams into their application that never hear back. So about 89%, I saw this recently at McKinsey, like 89% of candidates never hear back from a job they've applied to, which I think is really, really sad. So we created these really personalized and scalably personalized, like gentle rejection templates from application stage that provide really tangible feedback on their application, any additional support and time with us. Sometimes in this case, it's not like a discount, but we'll kind of offer up some of the services or like different engagements we have for our talent community. So, hey, join this Slack community, or hey, you can join this. Here's some offers to some job boards and communities that are values aligned in this like climate tech space, as well as here are the LinkedIns and emails of everyone from our interview process, and making sure that the rejection comes from the people, either the recruiter rejecting them at the application or anyone that they saw through the recruitment process. So it's personalized. And some of the feedback after implementing that about a couple months ago we're getting response rates from unprompted response rates from candidates saying over 50% of responses actually of people saying, hey, look, this is the first rejection I've had in months, although I've applied to hundreds of jobs and I haven't heard back. So thank you so much.
Wow.
It's really like that. Yeah. It really these are really kind, sweet notes and like providing like insights on the market of, hey, you took the time to review me. You said it would take 2 weeks. You did it in that 2 weeks. I really appreciate the personalized feedback on why I didn't move forward. And I also just appreciate you taking the time to give me not just like hey, this is from a greenhouse default or a lever default, like, or an Ashby. Right. Hey, you didn't get it. Like, here's from the team, but here's the name of the people who looked at this and offered up some services. So it meant the world to them. And some of them have turned into clients. Some of them have turned into candidates for their process. And others have just been really great people that connected with us on LinkedIn and other professional communities. And we cheer them on from the sidelines. So anyways, hopefully that's like some nice warm fuzzies for you to hear.
Yeah, no. Well, a couple of things that you said. Well, I heard you say climate tech, and I know what climate tech is because my wife works with climate tech, but can you tell listeners what climate tech is?
It can range from a lot of different things, but in this case, it was really working with companies to help measure their carbon neutrality and offsets. So some of the industries they're working on are like supply chains. So those have pretty significant ones. So right. How do you go from yeah. So it's some of that. So it's a little bit more on that kind of B2B side. Right. That might not have been the best example. It might have been easier to say like direct to consumer e-commerce because
no, that's good. I think listeners will be hearing more and more about climate tech and clean tech, and there are a lot of folks that are trying to work on repairing the world that we have because we only have one world, and really trying to go ahead and do something about carbon. And so I think it's going to be part of everyone's vocabulary really soon. So if it's not already there.
Yeah. Sorry I keep interrupting you. I'm just so excited to talk about it, Chuck. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We were all looking at those pictures of New York if we weren't there. Yep. Wow, this is wild. Or, last year, again, like I live in Southern California. So we've had fire, fire season is just coming up. We're going to be right behind New York and that kind of like post-apocalyptic. And I even saw a meme of New York skyline and then showing the second Blade Runner, right? When they're kind of walking into that orange, dystopic future of New York. And what was so sad is in this meme, like New York, actually the real New York looked worse than the CGI New York. Oh, wow. You're absolutely right. Like climate tech has been like at the forefront of a lot of venture capital and private equity and at the forefront of businesses. Even the last company that I worked at, again, who gives a crap? And a lot of what they do is they give 50% of their profits back to building water and sanitation projects, but also having an eco-friendly supply chain. So they are carbon neutral. They care deeply about how you make things and how you ship things and how you receive things, and also like having a net zero impact at the end of the day. So you're not throwing stuff back into the landfill. So you're absolutely right. It's something that we can all do, but working with businesses to really like big businesses to really measure their impact now is going to be critical for our future.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. So obviously hiring managers play an important part of the whole candidate experience. Can you just give a sort of your quick overview of, how you get them bought into providing a positive candidate experience?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good mix of storytelling and data. I think that's a secret sauce to most things and
Right.
salt. But I think I think I've never had a problem with working with hiring managers, even some of the more seasoned ones, or they've really been around, it's not their first rodeo, but just remind them of their own candidate experience. And I think if you remember what it was like getting your first job or even your latest job, it was pretty hard.
Right.
Most people, not everyone, but most people have difficult times in that job search. It's an existential crisis. You're questioning, who am I? What's my value? What's the impact? What do I want? What do I care about? And the longer that you're in kind of that headspace and meeting other companies and investing your time and your emotions and your resources into interviewing them, seeing if it's a good fit, it's a lot. So I try to do that with my hiring managers first and foremost. And I also I follow up with a lot of feedback from the interview and the onboard processes. So they obviously, the person who got the job is going to have like some candid feedback either way, but it's usually going to be pretty positive. But I try to provide feedback from candidates at all stages. So when we'll reject a few, we'll create weekly meetings with hiring managers to do some check-ins on search, and a lot of that will include feedback from, hey, here's some of the responses we got from our gentle rejections. Here's some of the things that, hey, I rejected after, our meeting last week, I rejected X, Y, and Z. And here's some of the feedback they have for us on our process. So we might want to iterate from this, or, hey, we might want to kind of revamp this question. We use a lot of structured interviews, or maybe it's a little bit of the tone and how we show up. I also like to dive into some of the like kind of geekier talent metrics, right? So here's our SLA, here's our time to hire, here's our acceptance rate. Let's remember this.
Right.
Or here's the last searches that we worked on. Let's remember this. So a lot of the hiring managers that I'm working with right now are kind of in this headspace of, let's just keep it moving. And I want a really strong pipeline. So let's send the person to the next one. And I'm like, we're getting to almost to the end of stages. We've got maybe 3 people. We're not going to reasonably give 3 people an offer. We can't ask them to opt out. I think we need to make some decisions. And I'm noticing that we're getting to this end stage, and we're like, it's now 2 to 3 weeks before we're making a decision. They've been in the stage for way too long. So here's what we need to do. Also, I try to grab some like one-on-one if I'm noticing any like kind of consistent feedback on like a particular stage or an individual, and just again try to come together like, let's solve this as teammates. We're on the same team, and kind of figure out like what are we doing to like really serve that. So I find that, yeah, when you just remind anyone of their own candidate experience and, hey, how would you like to be treated? What would you expect from this stage? And what would you expect from this experience? Most people kind of look at how they've been operating so far and go, yes, I'd like to do a little bit better.
That's fair. A little bit of golden rule goes a long way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like why would you not want to be treated the way you'd like to be treated? Right.
Right. No, I totally agree. So, and you like, you were stirring up like some bad memories for me. I'm like, oh, I remember that awful time. I interviewed with a woman once, and she was doing her nails during the interview, and
Oh,
it was very early in my career, and I didn't know what to say, but she was like doing her nails, like with an emery board file and at her desk, and I'm like, wow. So
yeah.
yeah, not a good visual, and I'm glad I didn't work the place.
That's a little telling. Yeah. I like to think that I became a recruiter because like I met a few good ones, but I had a lot of bad experiences. And I was
Yeah,
like, wow, could be better.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
give you the change that I want to see in this world of people. I worked with, I wasn't in this interview, but it was a candidate. It was a company I was working for not working in-house, but as like a retained agency partner. And I got feedback that the CEO themselves insisted on meeting candidates at the last step for an hour long, but was consistently one showing up like 15, 20 minutes late, bringing his
Oh,
lunch, putting his feet on the table. And if he got a notification on his phone or a call, would pick it up and leave the room without any context. And so after having a few of those experiences, I had to have a really uncomfortable conversation with the CEO to really go, hey, look, like this is the impact like it's having on the candidates. Like they had a great experience, but now this last experience might not. You're a great person to meet. They want to spend time with you. We could say, hey, you might have a call, or maybe we can just shorten your meeting to like 20 or 30 minutes. You don't have to take calls. Maybe we could schedule a little better. Maybe you don't have to eat lunch in front of them. Or if you do, we should just prepare them, say, hey, it's so-and-so's lunch hour, and they might have some food in front of you. Feel free to bring a beverage and just have a casual conversation, right?
Or bring lunch for 2 or 3 or whatever.
Exactly. And I like to do that too with a lot of virtual interviews. So to kind of go back to like some of the ATS building and some of that prep work. And when I send confirmations about an interview, it'll be like, all right, so this is going to be, video optional, or we'll be video on our side. And there's going to be some dogs and children in the background. We might be running late from some back-to-backs. There's going to be a beverage in hand. Right. Show up like to do not wear a 3-piece suit, come prepared with questions, and like so kind of just like setting that tone of like also what is the flow. Like we'll spend 5 minutes on intros, we'll dive into some of these types of questions, and then we'll spend some time for questions for you for like 15-20 minutes at the end. So like here's kind of that flow that you can expect. I think if you just set expectations, it's fine. We can all be humans. Again, we don't have to like have hour-long meetings that are back-to-back and our 3-piece suits that like run like clockwork, because that doesn't sound very fun to a lot of people.
No.
And as long as you know what to expect, I think that is a great experience.
Yeah. Mary, I appreciate all the insights that you've provided, and you definitely have a wealth of them. If listeners want to get a hold of you, how could they do so?
Yeah, check me out on LinkedIn. So with Mary Strebinger, I'm really friendly. I'll add you back. I'm always posting about candidate experience and then reposting content from my network and all the enthusiastic commentary and lots of gifts and energy. But you can also check me out at herohire.club.com. But yeah, reach out. I'd love to expand my network. And if you are excited about candidate experience and talent acquisition and people-y stuff like me, we should definitely connect.
Yeah. I will share those links in the session notes. And Mary, thanks for your time today. I appreciate your insights.
Oh, thank you so much, Chuck. This was such a treat. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Candidate Experience Podcast. You can reach out to us via our website, thecx.xyz. That's thecx.xyz.